Yeah, I mean, you talk about legacy, like Jon Jones, it's probably the best fighter that ever lives. Talk about if I have to choose someone in his prime that I put in the Coliseum hand to hand, I think it would be Jon Jones. It's hard to deny that. Tom Aspinall is on a hell of a run now, so it's to see how they get a match.
Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall. Two heavyweight monsters, one legendary legacy on the line. As the MMA world buzzes over a potential showdown between the seasoned GOAT and the rising British powerhouse, the question echoes louder than ever. Who truly rules the heavyweight division? Recently, some of MMA's biggest names, past champions, commentators, coaches, have weighed in. And the takes? They range from respectful praise to outright predictions of dethroning a king. So let's break it all down. What are the experts saying? What does each fighter bring to the cage? And is Jon Jones really the unbeatable force we've always believed him to be? Rampage Jackson's take. Respect for the king. Let's start with Rampage Jackson, a former champion.
You fought Jon Jones back in the day. People are
why you only bringing up my losses?
People are all talking about Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. How do you see that fight going? You got Tom or you got Jon?
Man, I don't think there's nobody on this planet that can beat Jon Jones, because I was in there with him. I was at my best, and I've never lost a fight at my best until Jon Jones. And no disrespect to Tom Aspinall, but he a good fighter. You know what I'm saying? I think he's probably second best out there, but I don't see him.
You think Jon Jones finishes him?
I think Jon Jones is just a real smart fighter. I heard something like he want to take 6 months before he fight Aspinall. I think it's because he want to study him. He want to break him down. Right. Jon Jones ain't no fool. He's probably one of the smartest fighters out there. I say he like Neo. He's Neo.
Champion himself and no stranger to the brutality of the octagon, Rampage recently gave massive props to Jon Jones. He reflected on their own clash, admitting he was in prime shape for that fight and still came up short. That, to Rampage, speaks volumes. He called Jon Jones the Neo of MMA, a fighter who sees the Matrix.
A very intriguing fight. If I had to put money on it, it'd be super hard for me to bet against a guy like Jones, just because I know the mindset that he comes in with. Not saying Aspinall couldn't get it done because of all those physical gifts that he has, but dog, betting against a guy like that, if he gets you on the ground, that's just a bad...
Reads opponents in real time and controls the fight with chilling precision. According to Rampage, no one's really figured Jones out. Not then, not now, as for Tom Aspinall, Rampage respects his skills, but doesn't believe he's the one to crack the Jones code. He even mentioned hearing that Jones wants around 6 months before stepping into the cage with Aspinall, likely to analyze.
Jon dominates everybody. He took down Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier is an Olympic wrestler. I mean, he's a phenomenal wrestler. And Jon took him down. And took him down multiple times. He's a different dude, man. Yeah. This is what we're talking about, like with genetics, right? There's some guys, they're just blessed. And then with Jon, it's blessed and his mind. It's not just, it's his personality, his like ruthless competitiveness. It's like, he's not going to lose. He's going to find a way to get you, and he's going to do it clever. He's not trying to take a bunch of punishment and to stand and bang. He's not going to point the center of the octagon and let's go right here, we'll stand right here. Never going to happen with Jon Jones. You're not getting none of that, son. You're getting knees to the gut. You're getting your knees kicked. You're getting just laced up with elbows where your head's bleeding. He's going to slowly dismantle you and find a way to submit you or punish you, beat you to death on the
plan and craft his next masterclass. Aljamain Sterling, leaning Jones but intrigued. Aljamain Sterling echoed that intrigue. The former bantamweight champ admitted a Jones versus Aspinall matchup is fascinating, but also said it's incredibly hard to bet against Jon. Why? Because of Jones's mental resilience.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about legacy, like Jon Jones, it's probably the best fighter that ever lives. Talk about if I have to choose someone in his prime that I put in the Coliseum hand to hand, I think it would be Jon Jones. It's hard to deny that.
Calculated, almost surgical fighting style. Sterling did praise Aspinall's athleticism and explosive style, though. He warned, if Jones gets the fight to the ground, it's trouble. And not for Jones. Joe Rogan, the edge of strategy. Joe Rogan never shy about expressing admiration for elite fighters.
However, nobody beats time, and Tom Aspinall is on a hell of a run now. So it's to see how they get a match. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. As a fan, I want to see this fight. I would like to see this fight, but I think Tom is very hungry, and it's up to Jon to see if he still wants to do this and if the UFC can compensate him good, because I think he deserves it. So it's going to be a hell of a fight.
Rogan insight. He reminded fans that Jones's dominance isn't about being the most physically gifted guy. It's his strategic brilliance that sets him apart. Fighting Daniel Cormier, shutting down Cyril Gane, staying out of danger while breaking down elite opponents. That's Jones's game, and he plays it better than anyone ever has. GSP speaks, the GOAT's words on the GOAT, and then came the voice of another GOAT, Georges St-Pierre. In a recent interview, GSP didn't hesitate. If he had to pick one fighter to represent
advantages do you see that he has over Jon Jones?
I think hand speed. But what Jon does very well, and what we saw in the Stipe fight, is Jon will occupy your hand.
In a real-life hand-to-hand fight, it would be Jon Jones.
So you saw Jon switch to southpaw, lead hand occupy, which left Stipe with one punch, which was cross. So he was timing the cross to pull off, and then was adding on. So I think when you break that fight down, I actually talked to Tom on Monday. We were kind of going back and forth a little bit on some of the game planning things. You can't be in that B range and just kind of get snake charmed by Jon. Let him grab your hands, let him dictate the pace, let him dictate the rhythm. You have to be hyper aggressive in those positions, and I think that's what Tom would have to do in that fight.
That said, GSP did offer a reality check. Time catches up with everyone. He pointed out that while Jones may still be at the top, Tom Aspinall is motivated, hungry, and in the best form of his life. GSP said he hopes the UFC gives Jones the money he deserves, because this fight, it's worth every penny. Coach Eric Nixick, technical breakdown.
Jon Jones or Tom Aspinall. So if you don't know MMA world, sorry to bore you, but Tom Aspinall is UFC's #1 right now. Jon Jones is, he's seen as the best MMA fighter on the planet. Dana White's got a massive for him, says he's unbeatable. Honestly, I think if you put Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall in a room and said one man leaves, I think Tom Aspinall leaves that room. I genuinely do. I think Jon Jones, I can't badmouth the guy. He's got an amazing record, but he's definitely ducking Tom Aspinall, 100%. And I think he's even said he doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall after his next fight. He's pretty much going to retire after this fight, so he's ducking Tom Aspinall.
Coach Eric Nixick, a respected tactician, focused on the X's and O's. He warned that while Tom Aspinall has blazing fast hands for a heavyweight, Jones is a master at controlling range and neutralizing striking rhythm. Nixick recalled how Jones...
he can say what he wants, but actions speak louder than words. So, there we go. Anyway, the answer to that question is Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall is kicking Jon Jones
to southpaw against Stipe Miocic to shut down the jab and control timing. His advice to Aspinall? Avoid mid-range exchanges where Jones thrives and keep the pressure on. Let Jones dictate the pace, and you're toast. Eddie Hall, backing Aspinall boldly. On the flip side, strongman legend Eddie Hall didn't mince words.
I think Tom might have the best chance of anybody to beat Jon right now. But that being said, I still think Jon wins the fight just because of his wrestling. I think he puts Tom on his back and is able to nullify his jiu-jitsu from being top position with his elbows and control. What does Jon win to take that fight? If he goes out there and beats Tom, is it really going to make or break his career? I don't think anybody can.
He believes if Jones and Aspinall meet, Aspinall wins. Period. Hall acknowledged Jones's legendary status but argued that Aspinall's rise is real and his momentum unstoppable. He even pointed out how Jones hasn't shown much interest in taking that fight, suggesting hesitation might hint at doubt. Frank Mir and Israel Adesanya, ground game edge, former champ. Frank Mir sided with Jones, leaning on wrestling. He argued that if Jon gets on top, it's game over. Ground control, elbows, dominance. He even said that beating Aspinall wouldn't drastically change Jon's legacy. Why? Because it's already secure. Israel Adesanya...
Do you think the Aspinall-Jones fight happens?
It's got to happen. I was sitting next to Tom the other week at the UFC in London and talking to him about it.
How do you think that plays out if they fight?
I'll be honest, Tom's a friend. I love Tom. He's one of the coolest dudes in the whole of MMA. Even though Jones is getting old, I just can't pick against Jon Jones. The one thing I do think Jon Jones has got the best in the world and the best ever is his fight IQ. He has a perfect game plan to beat that person. As much as I love Tom and I want Tom to win, I couldn't pick against Jon Jones. It's just something I couldn't do.
Chimed in too, noting that Aspinall and Jones are physically similar, tall, long, athletic. But Adesanya emphasized that Jones's superior grappling could be the deciding factor. Without that matchup, though, Izzy admitted it's impossible to know for sure. Paddy Pimblett and Joe Rogan, star power rising, Paddy Pimblett, always colorful, called the fight a must-watch and threw his support behind fellow Brit Tom Aspinall. Still, even Paddy admitted, it's hard to bet against Jon Jones's experience and octagon IQ. Meanwhile, Rogan went even deeper. He called Aspinall the future of the heavyweight division, praising his elite jiu-jitsu, crisp striking.
But he's the same height as me, if not an inch taller, but thick.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're a lot thicker than I would expect.
Yeah.
And the speed,
yeah,
that's the thing that I'm like, okay, that's the danger. But again, grappling, he's a black belt. But Jon is...
That's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. They got to fight. But if they don't ever fight, we'll...
Who's next big heavyweight star?
Tom Aspinall, the guy who
Of
just
course,
won
just
the
won.
interim title. He's
Yeah.
phenomenal, and he is
Yes.
again the next the next advancement of the evolution of the sport.
How so?
Well, because he can do everything. That guy's got elite jiu-jitsu. He's got elite takedowns. His
Yeah.
striking is outstanding. I mean, he knocked out Sergey, who's the scariest striker in all of MMA.
Yeah.
And he knocked him out in the first round. And the way he did it was just picture perfect. And he did it with a back. You watch Aspinall, like, I knew Aspinall was going to have a speed advantage because he's faster than any heavyweight.
Yeah.
And that's something that his coach drilled into him when he was young.
Speed.
Like, be fast. Like, you've got to be fast. That's what's
Yeah.
going to separate you from everybody else.
Speed kills.
Speed. And he's a giant dude, 260 plus pounds, but he moves like a fast young guy.
Yeah.
Like a light guy. And so that's what's, and he's also just so well-rounded. And he's just beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, that was really the first big test of his career.
And terrifying. Speed. Rogan brought up Aspinall's first-round KO of Sergey Pavlovich, even with a back injury. That's no joke. Speed versus power. The Rogan breakdown. One of Rogan's most fascinating takes was about speed versus power. He said while Francis Ngannou may be the most powerful heavyweight ever, Aspinall's speed makes him even more dangerous. At 260 pounds, Aspinall moves like a welterweight. That's terrifying. His
255-pound natural who moves like he's 80 pounds lighter. He's a freak, man.
Yeah.
Aspinall's a freak. Like, I've seen a lot of heavyweight, even Francis, who's like the greatest, scariest power striker I've ever seen in the heavyweight division. No one's scarier than Francis. Francis does not move like Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall is significantly faster than every other heavyweight. That's a real problem.
Colin Heron drilled that speed mindset from day one, and it shows. According to Rogan, that movement is what sets Tom apart, and what could give Jon real problems. Curtis Blades, Gerald Meerschaert, slight edge to Aspinall. Curtis Blades was torn but leaned Aspinall, 55-45 in favor of Tom. He warned that Jones is always dangerous, but that Aspinall's pace and timing might break through. Gerald Meerschaert agreed.
Which is Tom Aspinall fights Pavlich and takes that fight on 2 weeks' notice and becomes the interim champion and his backup and can't train at all. But Aspinall, like, that he's something special. He really is something special. He's a very unusual example because he's a heavyweight and he's a big guy, a really big guy, but he moves so fast. And his coach, Colin, I forget, it's from Cabon, this gym that he trains at in the UK. Colin Heron. He trained Darren Till. Colin, from the early days of the career, was like emphasizing his speed. And so his speed has always been like extraordinary compared to other heavyweights. Like, he just moves in. It's all like fast, explosive movements. So he's got natural speed, but then he's also got a lot of training to execute quickly. So when he moves in, he closes the gap. You can see, like, he's fast. For a big guy.
To Aspinall's strength, size, and heavyweight experience as real advantages. He thinks Tom could create serious problems, especially if he keeps the fight standing. Demetrius Johnson and the 30-minute problem, Demetrius Mighty Mouse. Johnson is another name siding with Jones. He admitted Aspinall...
Do you think Aspinall beats him?
Yeah, I would pick him. Like, I would go 55% him, obviously. It's not going to be a landslide. Like, we're going against Jon Jones. He's a legend.
Is real, but believes Jones would win with ease. His bigger concern? Negotiations. Aspinall reportedly wants $30 million for the fight. That could delay or kill the matchup entirely. Daniel Cormier, the weight debate. Daniel Cormier made an interesting...
Man, honestly, I'm going to have to go with Aspinall on that one. Like, he's He's just a very large human being. Now, I wouldn't be absolutely shocked if Jon Jones won, but Aspinall is just so big. You know what I mean? Like, that's a guy who grew up and is a true heavyweight. Like, it's just a bigger scale of human being. It's not to say that, you know, Jones isn't used to dealing with that necessarily, but I don't know that he's fought anybody at, you know, especially heavyweight with that same kind of reach. And like, I think, like, I didn't know this at first, but I know Aspinall, he was better at grappling first. I think his dad was like one of the first black belts in the UK or something like that. So he's also a very legit grappler and really good with like the ground in general. I don't know if he out wrestles him necessarily, but you get a guy that big and explosive, like football tackling you, I don't know how you're going to stop that.
Argument. He said Jones might do better against Aspinall if he dropped weight to around 215 lbs instead of bulking up to 245. Why? Because in the Cyril Gane fight, Jones looked slower with the extra weight. According to DC, the heavier Jones gets, the more his agility suffers. Jamahal Hill, a true final test. Jamahal Hill thinks this could be Jones's toughest test yet.
Jon Jones will smoke Tom Aspinall.
I don't know, man.
He'll smoke Tom Aspinall.
Tom Aspinall is athletic. I think Tom Aspinall will try to take the fight to Jon Jones. And it'll be interesting to see. Like, I'd rather see that fight over Alex Pereira.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion.
I agree. I would like to see that fight over Alex, but come on, man. Aspinall is a great fighter. Yep. He's a good champion. Aspinall. That's what I said. Jon Jones will smoke Aspinall. Yeah. Smoke him.
I can't wait to see. I hope it happens. That's the fight that needs to happen. I think Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones needs to happen.
Why do you think there's so much friction there? Why do you think it's not happening? Why? Because we see so much.
I think Jon Jones said he wants 30.
Yet. He's excited, but also realistic. If Jones wants one final iconic fight. Before retirement, this is the one. Duplessis and Sean Ali, legacy at stake. Duplessis praised Aspinall's work ethic and sees him leading the next era of UFC stars. Still, he believes Jones is still elite and can win. If he retires soon, he'll protect his legacy as the greatest to ever do it. Sean Ali warned that a loss to Aspinall could hurt Jon's legacy. Age, inactivity, and mounting pressure could all catch up. And if Aspinall knocks him off, the critics will be loud. Jon Jones, Tom.
That if he's weighing 215, he would fight Tom Aspinall better than him weighing 245 pounds. In his 205 frame, he could fight Tom Aspinall better than he'd fight him at that 250 because that's not his weight class. While he didn't last long with Cyril, he didn't look as fast. He carried more weight. Cyril just did weird stuff. And Jon, you don't make mistakes against
Aspinall. Two heavyweight monsters, one legendary legacy on the line. As the MMA world buzzes over a potential showdown between the seasoned GOAT and the rising British powerhouse, the question echoes louder than ever. Who truly rules the heavyweight division? Recently, some of MMA's biggest names, past champions.
Well, if Jon Jones has taught us anything, you can never count him out. You never count him out no matter what the challenge is, no matter what. He's always risen to the occasion or risen to that challenge and perform exponentially. So I think that it'll be a good fight. I believe it'll be a good fight. I believe it'll probably be one of the harder fights and harder challenges that Jon has had in his career. So, I mean, it's all about if he wants to challenge himself like that.
Commentators, coaches have weighed in. And the takes? They range from respectful praise to outright predictions of dethroning a king. So, let's break it all down. What are the experts saying? What does each fighter bring to the cage? And is Jon Jones really the unbeatable force we've always believed him to be? Rampage Jackson's take, respect for the king. Let's start with Rampage Jackson. A former champion himself and no stranger to the brute.
Aspinall is young, he's hungry. You have Jones, who is definitely at the end of his career, 38 years old. I don't need to see this because he's never been beaten. I want Jon Jones to retire unbeaten, and I want him to retire, and Aspinall goes on to be the next big thing. But Jon Jones, being the warrior that he says, pay me enough and I'm doing it. Aspinall wants it, and one of them has to lose that fight. And that's the one thing, you look at it and go, Aspinall's probably going to win. But then, if you ask me that, I say, no. We've said that so many times with Jon Jones, and it makes it look easy. He is...
Of the octagon, Rampage recently gave massive props to Jon Jones. He reflected on their own clash, admitting he was in prime shape for that fight, and still came up short. That, to Rampage, speaks volumes. He called Jon Jones the Neo of MMA.
Tom Aspinall? God damn. It's like you risk going down as no matter what, you don't have to fight again. Greatest of all time, people will say that. You're the greatest of all time. Greatest of all, Jon Jones. or you risk it. Go fight Tom Aspinall, possibly lose, and then it's like he was the greatest. Then they're saying, yeah, but he wasn't in his prime.
A fighter who sees the matrix, reads opponents in real time, and controls the fight with chilling precision. According to Rampage, no one's really figured Jones out. Not then. Not now. As for Tom Aspinall, Rampage respects his skills but doesn't believe he's the one to crack the Jones code. He even mentioned hearing that Jones wants around 6 months before stepping into the cage with Aspinall, likely to analyze, plan, and craft his next masterclass. Aljamain Sterling, leaning Jones but intrigued. Aljamain Sterling echoed that intrigue. The former bantamweight champ admitted a Jones versus Aspinall matchup is fascinating, but also said it's incredibly hard to bet against Jon. Why? Because of Jones's mental resilience and calculated, almost surgical fighting style. Sterling did praise Aspinall's athleticism and explosive style, though. He warned, if Jones gets the fight to the ground, it's trouble. And not for Jones. Joe Rogan, the edge of strategy. Joe Rogan never shy about expressing